Welcome back to one more session of finance. Last lecture, we were discussing about International Monetary Fund. We talk about the evolution, we talk about the headquarters, and we were talking about the special drawing rights, the special provisions which are made. So this lecture, we are going to further discuss about the same. So let's continue. I'm expecting the more, but today we have a very less number of students who are present. So please motivate your classmates for attendance purpose and learning purpose. So let's talk about the special drawing rights more in detail. So we'll discuss the special drawing rights as a special case. Please remember, for your examination purpose, the special drawing rights is very keen and very essential. So let's wait for few seconds. Let the students switch. Let's continue. The special drawing rights is supplementary reserve assets created in 1969 in the context of Bretton Woods fixed exchange rate system. So this was created to supplement or to create an financial reserve in case there is an issue about forex as per the Bretton Woods fixed exchange rate system. Now, what is fixed exchange rate system? To just recall or remember, in the fixed exchange rate system, the rate of exchange for my currency is fixed. For example, 1 kg of gold, my exchange rate is 10. So whatever the gold rate, plus or minus, the rate will be changed on the gold. So suppose I go to the America, then 1 kg of gold in US dollar is for 10 rupees. Sorry, in US, $1, sorry, $10 is a cost of 1 kg of gold. In India, we have something like 2 lakh rupees is cost of 1 kg of gold. Now I'm giving example, these are not exact figures. So in fixed exchange rate, they're going to equal that $10 is equal to 2 lakh rupees. Then $1 is equal to 20,000. And this is the exchange rate. So this was followed in the Bretton Woods fixed exchange rate system. So the special drawing rights were created as a reserve of supplementary assets to all the member countries so that they can finance their foreign transactions, they can maintain their forex rates, and they can use this money for their development in future regards. The potential claim was free usable currencies. Now, what is mean by free usable currencies? The members are allowed or authorized to use any currency. It can be a dollar, pound, sterling, yen, Indian rupee, Singapore dollar, Chinese yuan, or Japanese yen, or something. They can be converted freely into other currency. No forex currency charges are applied. The basket was given like dollar, euro, Chinese renminbi, yen, British pound, and you can select any one currency for your purchase. The returns on this currency, the returns on this currency were permitted in own currency or the selected currency. The special drawing holdings has restricted to their member countries. Generally, the allocation of special rights were made based on the quota system. So, it is made to the 15 described holders only, and it is based on the quota shares. Quota means the amount of capital, the amount of funds which I have been invested in IMF. Based on my quota or the percentage, I can withdraw the money as special drawing rights. Suppose the capital of IMF is 100. There are five people A, B, C, D, and E. A has 10 rupees, B has 30 rupees, C has 30 rupees, D has 20 rupees, and E has 10 rupees. Then the share of them will be 1 as 2, 3 as 2, 3 as 2, 2 as 2, 1. And why this so? Because their capital contribution or their quota is based on their ownership or contribution. So since A has a 10, out of 100, 10 is one share, 30 is three shares, 30 is three shares, two shares, and one share. Because 3 plus 3, 6 plus 2, 8 plus 2, it becomes 100. So I calculated the proportion. And this will be their quota. Now suppose B has a quota of 3. So if B has quota of 3, he can withdraw 3 as maximum. But he is allowed to take 2, he is allowed to take 1, and he is allowed to use 3. So he can use 3. So this is the maximum limit. Minimum, there is no limits. This is a maximum limit. Then further, the one-time allocation of SDR is provided in fourth amendments of Articles of Agreement to enable all members of IMS to participate in SDR system. And this SDR system participation was equitable basis. The countries who joined after 1981 has never received SDR allocation. So before 1981, those who companies participate in the IMF workings, we are lucky to have been member before 1981. They got the SDR permission. But even it is mentioned in the fourth amendment article of International Monetary Fund that every member will get a quota of special drawing rights. But even after these rights, the benefit is not received or benefit is not shared, considering the number of people, like we got 150 countries, and the portion or proportion of turnover in a year was limited. And hence, even though equitable distribution was agreed after 1981, but these all countries who are joined after 1981, they are not still getting the SDR quota from International Monetary Fund. Now, this is the graph showing new allocation. So 1920, it was this. It has jumped to $200 billion, but the quota available is 100 and 204. So total money available is 204, out of which 200 is already given. So only $4 billion, sorry, it's my mistake. So we have quota of $204 billion, out of which the $200 are already utilized by the countries who are being part of International Monetary Fund 1981. So only $4 billion are available to rest of member countries. And that's why, even though amendments were done for the equitable distribution, the same equitable distribution is not followed. In case the quota is not utilized in any financial year, or the quota is halfly traded, then there are arrangements of group of 31 participants that they can specifically exchange the quota with the certain other member country with prior permission of voluntary trading arrangements. These voluntary trading arrangements depend on the equitable contribution of the member country. For example, if US has a quota of 45%, but US has only used 30% and 50%, 15% quota is balanced. So the quota can be sold off to the any other member country, but the group of 31 SDR participants need to be one of these member countries. So again, the countries which join the latter, they are not being allowed to shift the quota. Even you want to shift the quota, the prime lending is on mother country. For example, when US got the quota of 45% and it want to share the quota to any other country, then if I share the quota, it is considered to be part of my original contribution. So if I divert, I change, I alter, then my original quota is being altered and affected. So in this way, the fund arrangements need to be a professional, and I just cannot give up quota because giving up quota is setting up my new limits. For example, 45 was my limit, and I trade with 15%, limiting myself as only 30%. So in this regards, the 15% quota is considered excess, and it gives the right to International Monetary Fund that next time when they allot the quota, they can consider this 15% as margin, and decision about usables can be taken. In SDR, the International Monetary Fund is allow the members to change their quota or request for reallocation of holdings. They are not allowed to raise the quota. For example, in case of US, 45 is the quota. They can reduce the quota to 30, but they cannot increase than more than 45. So maximum is given in the clause. Minimum you can change. Members who hold more SDR, then their allocation receives the interest on difference between their holding and allocation. So if I am retrieving more than my quota and holding it, then I need to pay something called as SDRI. It is determined on weekly basis on weighted average short-term interest rate. It is the basket currency rates and floor of 5 basis point. Now, why this is 5 basis point? The 5 basis point indicates the different five different parameters or five different holding government interest, and they calculate the weighted average. So suppose I purchase a dollar. For a dollar, they have decided five different basket of countries. They will give the weightage. Weighted calculation, they will find out what is the average interest rate, and it is charged weekly. So in simple, if the quota is given and you are over withdrawn, you are responsible for compound interest. The SDR is lower than the interest rate of foreign currency dominated in most of the emerging foreign nations capital market or money market. The SDR value is always being focused by understanding the currency demanded. It can be dollar, pound, yen, or anything. So the basket is allocated with the discharge liability, and that discharge liability will decide the interest rates. Now the question is, I give an example of US that 45% is my quota. I'm using 30%, and I'm setting the trade of 15%. Now when I set the trade of 15%, this is excessive gain, and on that the liability is of US to pay the charge. In COVID-19 crisis, the long-term scares on global economy was there. The trade volumes were limited and shrink down towards the very necessities. So external finance needs was a vulnerable situation and there was inadequacy of funds. In this case, the global adjustment process was done and the SDR limits were temporarily raised. Except to this, the SDR limits are not happened or not increased in any conditions and they are followed based on the quota system. Once you utilize the quota, next time you have to take one cycle to complete to refill your quota. It's simply like your medical policy. I just pay for my medical bills. It not being refilled up to certain period. That certain period will be decided in my policy. Similarly, in IMF, once I subscribe for my quota next will be available after a period of 12 months. And only I can go with the another subscription. It is not allowed that today I withdraw something, 10 days after again I'm withdrawing something, 15 days again. No, this is not permitted in special drawing rights. The purpose or application of special drawing right money is observed by International Monetary Fund. They are authorized to observe the credit rating and repayment capacity of nation. However, the percentage of application and the phenomenon or the method is totally reserved for the member countries. I take it for making furniture and I purchase car. I take it for education and I construct building. That is nothing to do with IMF. They are only consider the percentage, amount, or the figure which you have mentioned. Otherwise, they are least bothered about how the application are done. They are mostly interested that you are returning this money in time. The general allocation of SDR or cancellation of this quota is done on the 11th basic period begin from 1st January 17 till 31st December 2021. So the total period is calculated in 11 different intervals. And in 2016, the case of SDR allocation in the 11th basic period was assessed. So in this period, it is observed that the proposal for a general allocation was appropriate and it is allowed to consider this as 11 basic period. Now, what is 11 basic period? For example, if I want to give the quota, there is some benchmark or some grace or some duration for which the funding contributed I need to take in cognizance. So here, when I'm talking about the quota, the period of 2017 to 2021 December is the actual. Now, if you count 17 plus 4, that is total period of 5 years, has breakout in 11 periods. And this 11 periods average is calculated for allocating the quota. In COVID-19 crisis, the long-term global macroeconomic environment has changed the making necessary revisits and allocation of 11th basic period. So this is primarily done considering the effect of COVID and the credibility of the nations to rebuild from again and global medical crisis. So the SDR is considered as long-term assessment or long-term supplement for pre-existing reserves of assets to help the needy member countries for raising their international assets or for meeting the obligations of long-term or short-term on global level. SDR allocation serve the purpose of appropriate assistance for international trade and operations. The SDR allocation is one of the financing source for member countries to meet their global applications. So if I'm in need of money for my foreign trade, I can take this SDR as special concessional loans and make the advancement in my international trade. So this way, the allocation of SDR is an alternative to all members for their liquidity crisis. And in case of low reserves, this is an alternate source of reserve where the funds can be allocated and calculated in proper way. This is a liquidity crisis arrangements or supplementary reserves, but this cannot be used for hedging purpose. Economic stagnation and deflation is another alternative options where the SDR rights are freezed. If I'm having economic crisis or deflationary move, that to be a purposive. In that case, the SDR rights and its alternatives are compared, and based on the board decision, the allocation of special drawing rights and its volume is pre-decided. Please review the slide. I'll wait for a few seconds. Implications and benefits. Now, SDR is short-term liquidity helping. It helped me to enable and boost out the majorly and importantly the long-term benefits and long-term achievements. So considering this, it is helped me in international trade. It helped me to cooperate my financial requirements. It smoothens my foreign transactions as due to this special drawing rights. I'm confident in trading because I get one of the backbone which help me to confidently trade in international business. The reserve allocations, the purposive actions of having alternate for finance gives the boost and smooth operation via international trade, and this help member countries to gain an advantage. Now, this is a case study of Zimbabwe. I'll wait for a few seconds again. Please read this case study, then we can discuss. Now, let's understand this. The Zimbabwe was using the special drawing rights of 262 millions under general allocation. And in one-time allocation, it is using 66.4 millions. So totally, he was using something around 3 to 8.4 million as his drawing rights. The SDR has two provisions. One, the regular rotational allocation, which they can withdraw now, they can again withdraw. So repeated they allow. And one is their 25% total allocation rights, which they can withdraw as a special one-time allocation. So the funds were withdrawn, and it is observed that the arrears in 2009 was pending. The arrears were 89.4 million. The under general allocation, the SDR cannot be suspended on account of arrears. So this was a case study that even though the outstanding are there, if my outstanding are there, the general quota I can use, but the special one-time allocation quota cannot be used if I have arrears. So here in 2009, the Zimbabwe was denied the special allocation quota of 66.4 million, but it was authorized to use the 262 million, the regular general allocation. Please read the slide once again. Let's further. So this was something about special drawing right and its case study. Let's continue to our original contents, that is International Monetary Fund. So this was given like quota, which we discussed, GDP 50% weightage, the economic openness 30%, economic variability 15%, international reserve 5%. So suppose I want, then it is 5, 3, or if I just revise again, it is 1, 3, 6, and 10. So these weights are assigned based on these parameters. So 10 plus 6 plus 3 plus 1, it becomes total 20. Suppose I want to take 1 lakh rupees, then this quota is analyzed based on this weighted valuation. And if I become eligible under the financial contribution, voting power, and access of underlining, in all this, I will use this proportion for each nation. So under this, US has 17.4, China has 6.4, Germany has 6.5, and so on. And this is called a quota system. So we just gone through today about the SDR. So this is a basket of revised 5 years. So which I talk about from January 17 to December 21. The revised basket was given that US dollar is 44, Euro is 29, Chinese renminbi is 13, Japanese yen is 8%, British pound is 7%. So these are the baskets, and I can withdraw the money from IMF under these basket combinations. So if I want to use the dollar is maximum allowed to withdraw up to 44%. Euro is allowed up to 29%. Suppose I want more British pound and no dollars, then I can reduce the dollar to zero, but I cannot change the quota of pound. Maximum 7.44% of my total requirement, I can get it funded in British pound. So if here I want a loan of 100 rupees, my 100 rupees loan is categorized in this quota. 44 rupees is dollar, 29 rupees euro, Chinese 13 rupees, Japanese yen 8%, and British pound 7%. So if I want the pound, the maximum limit available in case of this is 7.44. If I want, I can use this quota, or I can just change the percentage of money which I had required. The allocation of this quota is in proportion of IMF contribution, not a currency itself, but exchange is freely usable currencies. Largest allocation is done of 650 billion in COVID-19 period. So we already discussed all these things. So I'll wait for 1 minute. Please read this slide. We'll move ahead because this is summary of till what we discussed in today's session. Now let's understand how the actual international monetary fund lending works. The every country which is facing the issue regarding balance of payment, they can request the international monetary fund, and based on the economic policies and funding, the IMF can help them for meeting their financial obligations. Here, there are one is quota, where they can take the money from pool of funds available under the special drawing rights. And second, they can have new arrangement borrow, that is NBA, which is supplementary to the key resource. based on their contribution in capital. The maximum repayment period is 5 to 10 years, which is a concessional, and normal loans are provided of 3 to 5 years, which is regular. The interest rates which are charged are special drawing rate plus surcharge based on the economic condition and the weightage applied. In case the pre-closing the loans or lendings, IMF has a right to give the discounts, but it also charge an interest on weekly basis for outstanding loans and sinking the special drawing quota in case the amount is outstanding. I'll wait for a few seconds. Please read this slide, then I can start the explanation. So there are two classifications. One is the concessional and second is non-concessional. The most of concessional classification is about the credit facility where we are not directly applying, but they are supporting indirectly for financial obligations like medium term support, short term support, and urgency. So most of the concession loans are low income countries or zero income countries where the countries are not able to bear the interest. Whereas non-concessionals are market rate based, where the maximum arrangements are done for a general period to help to manage its balance of payment situation. The first is standby arrangements. The standby arrangements is called SBA arrangements. This is normally for the period of 1 to 2 years for balance of payments. The second loans they are giving is extended fund facility. This is given to member countries for structural reforms, that is, change in their bridges, dams, or some construction site or some service which will help the society at large. The flexible credit limit is a strong fundamental loan which is given beyond any conditions. This is given to countries which has a strong economic support and a monetary power. Whereas the precautionary and liquidity line, that is PLL, is given to the countries which has a moderate risk. So they are in less risky. Whereas rapid financing instrument is given for urgent need of the countries which has a higher credit ratings. So most of the non-concessional loans are urgent financing for my different international trade activities so that they are not hampered or they are carried out in more better way and the rules are being observed. Whereas the concessional lendings are given to the liberal form to a countries where the repayment capacities are less and they are having three categories: short, medium, and long. So the feature is same, but only the priorities is different. In case of concessional loans, the rapid financing facility is available on urgent, where in case of rapid credit facility under concessional, it is a sluggish but for more period. So the duration in concessional is more, but the interest rates are comparatively average. In non-concessional, duration is less, disbursement is quick, more funds available, but interest rates are based on market rate. So this is a major difference between the concessional and non-concessionals. And these are the type of loans which is given by IMF. Please once again go through this slide. If any doubt, just post in chat box. I'll just quickly move ahead. IMF conditionality. The basic role of IMF is provide the funds or make the available funds for the for the countries who are in need. So all the conditionality of International Monetary Fund is around ensuring the funds, their lending, their application, and effective reallocations. So what are the conditions? The first condition, what IMF do is budget reform, second deficit limits, privatization and tax reforms, and in the last, non-blinding goals for monitoring progress. So let's understand. Now, what is these conditions? When any country, the loan is given by international monetary funds, they ensure the stability or the secrecy or what I can say, the money is protected. I given a loan to the X country and they use for their luxury. No, this is not allowed. If you're taking the loan from International Monetary Fund, they enter into the conditions, and these are the certain conditions each country need to agree upon. The first, they need to have reforms in budget. The reforms here we're talking about the provisions for unnecessary wastages is to be avoided. We need to take the clarifications and permissions regarding any voluntary schemes or social benefit schemes from IMF. If unnecessary, the funds are diverted towards the expenditure which is concentrating on wealth creation. These wealth creation assignments is not permitted. The applied funds should be applied towards a growth purpose rather than qualitative in more quantitative. The qualitative growth talks about the leisure change in the approach of working or living. For example, I'm traveling by two-wheeler. Now I want to travel by car. I'm traveling by car. I want to use a chopper. So this is a qualitative change. So instead of this, I go with the quantitative changes where instead of one train, you can run in society two trains, five trains, 10 trains. So these reforms will generate the revenue. But in qualitative changes, the reforms are not generated. Later, the feedback is created about the experience. And this experience will not be counted in case of repayments of international monetary fund. The second, they talk about the fiscal deficit limits. Fiscal deficit means normally 99% the budget are having fiscal deficits. That means the source and application of funds are having limitation. The tax collected may be of 100 rupees, but the spending is 110 rupees. So always the developing nations, they have the struggle of meeting their expenses. So they prepare deficit budgets. But as per IMF, if you've taken the loan, you're not allowed to exceed the set percentage of fiscal deficit. Now here I'm not giving any number because this fiscal deficit is based on the GDP, based on the growth indicators, and again based on the five indicators of economy, which is followed and we just learn. Now there is a condition that if the loan is given, why so conditions are essential? The first and foremost, if I'm giving money, I need to ensure that money is used and returned to me. If these conditions are not there, the country may continue its operative mode and they will fall into trap of loans. So my money back guarantee is not there and I'm not getting an assurity that whatever the lending is done, it can be recovered. The third condition of IMF is about tax reforms and privatization. They want more and more private equity in contributing socio-economic reforms and helping to boost the nation by taking an active part. They want there should be a tax reforms in such a way that the private equity or private businessmen they are more motivated to start their organizations. So more organizations, more profitability, more productivity. In short, ensuring there is a growth, there is industrialization, there is employment, there is income, and the money which is given by IMF is returned. Most importantly, they are indicating non-binding goals of monitoring progress. Now, what is non-binding goals? Non-binding means it is not compulsory that these all things should be done. It is expected to observe the thing. So even these conditions are set, the non-binding targets are given to the member countries that you can do follow the conditions. The strictness or severity of condition will depend on your repayment cycle, your per capita income, and the GDP of that country in last 3 years average. So if they are doing well, there's no question. If they are doing average, it's always been challenged and assessed as a risk reversal. Then how the conditions works? For each 3 to 6 months, based on the type of country, the review is taken by the IMF. If it is a risky country, the period is less for review. If the country has a good potential and good international ratings, the review of such countries is done 6 months. But at least in 6 months, IMF do a review of the particular country. This review is a very crucial because this review makes you understand how the progress of loans is done. In this phase disbursement, they always cross-check the growth. If suppose out of four conditions, two are met and two are pending. In second quarter again, two are pending. In third quarter, two are pending. Then they issue the notice to the member country to fulfill the conditions. So they make an advisory note that if you're not fulfilling the conditions, it is simply breaching the trust and rights of your quota. And they can argue conditionally and impose the right of withdrawal or voting in international monetary fund, and this will may affect on credibility of that country. So these are the certain conditions which I must set before giving any loans. I suggest all of you to kindly go through these conditions. If any doubt, post in chat box. Let's move on. After giving the loans or special drawing rights, IMF do not have any policing facility. They do not have a right to control the physical gesture, physical movements. Rather, they work on observations and guidance mode. What normally the IMF do is instruct, observe, and follow. So, in case of IMF working style or strategy, they ensure the member countries are following the norms, the member countries are observing the grades, the facility, the purpose. So, there are three types of surveillance. The first surveillance is Article 4 of consultation. Second is regional surveillance. And third is multilateral or global surveillance. In Article 4 of consumption, it is a bilateral trade or bilateral agreements are checked where IMF team assess the economic health, exchange rate, fiscal and monetary stance, and check whether the funds are disbursed, used, has resulted in positive change. Now, why this is country level or bilateral? Because when the country A is in exchange with country B, they already make an impact over the both the nations' capita, both the nations' income, both the nations' exchange rate. So When the two countries are dealing with these conditions of exchange rate, fiscal and monetary stance, and economic health, it is bilateral trade. Whereas the regional is mostly talk about the trade cartels. Trade cartels indicates the different associations, different group of people like G20, G7, Eurozone, ASEAN, and so on. Or you can take the I just forget BRICS. So suppose India is a member of 10 different cartels. In first level, in Article 4, I talk about how I'm acting to the other. So one to one, what are my relations? How many trades or bilateral agreements I made? What is the impact on my economic health, my exchange rate, and so on? In second surveillance, they check in how many groups I'm working, how many groups I'm functioning, what are the benefits I'm taking, what are the advantage I'm having. And in the third, they will talk on global level, that is the contribution in world economic, the contribution and stability report of global financial stability report and fiscal monitor and so on. So if you want to just remember, when you're talking to your friend, so it is a relation between friend A and friend B, how they behave with each other. So that is multilateral. So when I'm chatting with my friend, it is Article 4 consultation, bilateral, that is country level. When I'm talking about the group of friends, suppose it's a male students group, it's a female student groups, it's a group of Solapur students, it's a group of Kolhapur students. So it's a regional surveillance. But when I talk as a class whole, MBA first year, MBA second year, MBA finance, MBA HR, I talk about multilateral surveillance. This surveillance is basically created to ensure the growth of that nation. If sometimes some nations are not binded legally, but we don't have the policing authorities with international monetary fund, so they can misuse the funds for irregular or unwanted activities. In that case, this 6 month or 3 months periodic surveillance will help IMF to understand whether the fund utilization is proper way or it is in destructive way. If it is improper way, they can suggest the loan taking country to take the selective measures. For example, if the Pakistan has taken a loan and started funding terrorism, India always giving remarkable proofs and evidence that these fundings are used for terrorism. So now IMF will start asking them, show me the reforms. Please share me the use and application of your funds. Please show me these reforms, this rework, show me this existence. And this way, they will check the functionality or the objectives and application of the funds. It can be a loans or it can be special drawing rights given to its member countries. I'll wait for a few seconds. If in doubt, please post in chat box. Let's move on. I hope there is no doubts. Along with loans, the consultation role is done by the International Monetary Fund. It is called as a capacity building and technical guidance. The International Monetary Fund has team of expertise which provides the advice and suggestion regarding the bilateral trade, multilateral trade, sectoral reforms, and they also do the supervision of various statistical output and data from the member countries. These statistical arrangements and reports, like budgeting, auditing, and policy supervisions, help the member countries for technical assistance in improvising their work and indirectly helping IMF to protect their loans. Where The second, that is delivery methods, is called capacity building. In delivery methods, the advisory is issued regarding expert about the regional contents, their obligations, their multilateral trade agreements, their forex reserves, their sharing of profits, and so on. So the technical assistance and capacity building is an additional facility extended by International Monetary Fund, under which observe, pursue, and guide. This formula is observed regarding the financial trade and the fiscal deficit of that countries. In IMF, there is also has governance and reforms. So already we discussed there are directors. These directors are majorly responsible to avoid the any issues or targets of member countries. There are 190 governance of member countries. They have 24 directors executive board, which meets 3 times per week, and they have to discuss about any issues, any cons and rights. Currently, the managing director of International Monetary Fund is Kristina Georgia, and she's from Bulgaria. She is handling this post from 2019. Please remember this name and the country. This you can write in examination for scoring more marks. Now it's almost 9 o'clock. We got more to discuss is membership, its rights and purpose and so on. Then we'll talk about challenges, capital operations, limitations, and current issues. So we'll discuss this in tomorrow's session. I'm thankful to all of you being part of this session. Please take your food, rest, and be prepared for more energy in new dawn for new challenges. Wish you a wonderful night ahead. Now all of you can log out and thank you for being part of this meeting.